Hi everyone, my name is Amee Meghani, and today I'll be presenting Cloudy with a Chance of CAD Administration. So the topic today is CAD Administration. What is it? How do we learn it? How do we get better at it? Okay. I mentioned before, but if you're just joining, if you want to submit a comment or a question, do that in the questions group box. The chat group box does not work. It doesn't work for you as the audience. It works for me, but then you can't reply. So just put anything you want to add in the questions group box. All right, I'm hoping you guys can see my screen. So I titled this Cloudy with a Chance of CAD Administration just because the term CAD Administration is not something you really know or understand until you get into industry. And then it's like this term and everyone's like, what is it? It's very vague. So I'm hoping we can kind of unpack this a little bit. And unfortunately, I was hoping we could chat in the chat box for you guys to share, your experiences, but you can certainly put it in the questions. Okay, so what is a CAD administrator? So typically a CAD administrator is also one of these other roles: lead designer, IT, lead engineer. What I typically see is somebody who has one of these functions is also the CAD administrator. And so you're usually doing like your other role as well as some CAD administrator duties. Okay, so these are some things that a CAD administrator might do. So troubleshooting is something, and even if you haven't been assigned as the CAD administrator, it's like people are coming to you with these questions. Hey, this isn't working. Why isn't this happening? Is this happening on yours? That kind of thing. Installation and upgrades. Hey, do you know when we're moving to SOLIDWORKS 2023, or when are we going to upgrade? So if you're kind of the target of these questions, you're probably this unnamed CAD administrator. Templates, that's another topic. So why is his drawing template different from mine? This doesn't add up. Why is that happening? Sheet formats. Hey, the tolerances are incorrect on the sheet format. Or, hey, we need to update our company logo, in the title block or something. Licensing. You might be asked lots of licensing questions like, hey, do we have a CAM license? When does it expire? What about license ownership? Hey, whose machine is assigned to our simulation license? Like, who has it? Service agreement or maintenance. So service agreement is, hey, who's our reseller? What is included in our service agreement? What are the benefits? And then if you're doing, if you're storing your files on the network, you might get questions about network file management, or maybe complaints like, hey, did someone change my drawing? PDM file management. So this is, if you've got data management, you might get a question about like, hey, Sam is on vacation and he's got a file checked out. I need it. Well, if you're getting these questions, you're probably the CAD administrator. Training. I need some training on SOLIDWORKS. How can I learn it? Hardware. I have a horrible computer. It crashes all the time. So chime in on the questions if any of this sounds familiar, whether you are the one asking questions or the target end of getting the questions. I'm wondering if that's some of you. So that's just the beginning. We're just scratching the surface of what a CAD administrator might do. Okay, so let's unpack some more of this. So a CAD administrator is also often responsible for standardizing libraries. So that could be toolbox, library features, routing components, could be your templates and your formats, making sure everyone's mapping to the same place. This person is also managing vendor relationships. Hey, we've got GoEngineer, we've got SolidWorks, we've got, I don't know, whatever your third-party tools are. Maybe you have a 3D printer. So you are probably one of the people in the room when talking about vendor-related things. Software compatibility. So, you know, hey, is this version of Microsoft Office compatible with SolidWorks, or is SolidWorks compatible with this, you know, ERP system? The person that's a CAD administrator is really responsible for knowing a lot of this. Third-party add-ins. Let's say you have a nesting software, nesting add-in in SolidWorks. You know, you've purchased that and you have to make sure it works with SolidWorks, with your workflow. You're also responsible for continuous learning, knowing what the new enhancements are, making sure that your team is, you know, up to date on the latest. End of life strategy. If something is being phased out, you've got to know what's being phased out, when, and what you're going to do about it for your organization. Data migration. If you're moving from one system to another, you're probably involved in data migration. Data translation. Is anyone getting tired of me talking? Because I have a long list to go through. So data translation, if you're getting, you know, you're getting files from vendors or suppliers, and they're supplying it to you as an IGES or a step file or a Parasolid, and now you've got to bring it into your SolidWorks environment. You know, you're part of that. Like, hey, what's the best practice for this file type into our environment? So recommended practices, just all around, like, is everyone being consistent with their practices? Are we doing what's best and what's most efficient? Industry standards, what's right for, you know, what's standard for the industry, but also what's approved for a good drawing practice. Engineering change orders. You probably are involved with figuring out what the best process is to make an engineering change. Approval process. Drawing release process. So what does that look like? New hire onboarding. So if you've got a new talent coming through the door, you might be involved on deciding where they start with SolidWorks or the tools. CAD consolidation redundancy. Let's say you've got a couple of tools, maybe there's been an acquisition and you've got to consolidate or choose one tool going forward. Maybe you have some redundancy in your tools and you're seeing, okay, how can we, you know, not pay for all of these tools? How can we get the function we need out of just a couple of these? Okay, installation upgrade scheduling. Hey, when's a good time to do that? Is that between Christmas and New Year's? Serial number tracking and deciding what that serial number even looks like. Technical support. A lot of times your team has technical support tickets, and they go through you before, you know, before they go to, let's say, GoEngineer technical support or your technical support at your reseller. And then you've got design libraries, like I mentioned earlier, making sure everyone's using the same settings. You know, it could be your arrow style, kind of like I said, drawing standards, but also just, is everyone using the same settings? CAD certification strategy. Is everyone getting certified? And I mentioned this because, it used to be, we would say, hey, so-and-so has like 700 hours of CAD experience. And that would be kind of the standard of how you'd communicate someone's CAD skills. But if they're doing the same functions over and over again for those 700 hours, that really isn't a good indicator of your skill set. So, SolidWorks has a certification which is more indicative of your skill set. Like, hey, are you able to work with assemblies and configurations and advanced assembly techniques and things like that? CAD growth and projection. What does it look like for you in 3, 5, 10 years? ERP integration, access to other departments. Do they need the native file? Do they only need a subset of your files? Do they need PDFs? What formats do your other departments need? What if your marketing team needs to, render the CAD data, like in SolidWorks Visualize, you can do that. How do you communicate that to them? File security, intellectual property, being the training coordinator, record keeping of any process changes. You probably lead technology transitions and integrations. And you probably have to deliver some bad news once in a while, like, no, you don't need a new computer, or yeah, you probably have to reformat the machine. And generally, you're kind of the sounding board for complaints and gripes and limitations. So does that sound about right? Let me see what we've got in the chat. Okay, so sounds like this is resonating with a lot of you, which I'm glad to hear we're on the right track. Okay, so this is a definition of a CAD administrator, not necessarily the definition, but if we were trying to boil it down to a definition, I'd say it's a silent management position, connecting these departments with the CAD technologies, but you also have to have foresight for long-term growth and adaptability. So while CAD administrators don't really manage people, they manage processes. And those processes are really important and they impact the organization profoundly. So it's kind of a big deal to make an Anchorman joke. So again, this is not by any reputable source, just my definition. But hopefully I'm close to what you think is a CAD administrator. Okay, so where can you find someone with a CAD administration degree? Anyone? Nowhere. That doesn't exist. Okay, so if you're looking for CAD administrative skills, we're back to this slide. You're kind of borrowing skills from other departments with these cousin roles. And so what that means is if you don't have a dedicated CAD administrator, you're now kind of sharing the CAD administrator responsibilities with other responsibilities. So that means either you can do less of the CAD administrator responsibilities, or instead of like good quality effort behind those tasks, it might be, mediocre because you don't have the bandwidth to do it all. Okay, so how can we learn CAD admin skills? And this is how people have typically done it. Like anything I mention here is pretty much the most common ways I've seen it done, including myself. So you might be networking with others who do the same thing or similar things. A lot of times it's trial and error. You get into that situation and you have to crawl yourself out of it. You have to kind of piece together what your predecessor did. Maybe you took on someone's role that left the company and now you're trying to figure out what you're supposed to do. If this is all sounding familiar, you're not alone. And then just asking around like, hey, who Who's our reseller? Where do I go? Where's the server that has our license file on it? Those kinds of questions. You might be calling into tech support, like, hey, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm tasked to do this. Where do I start? And then, of course, the number one way is to Google your questions on an as-needed basis. So these are all really common ways to do these functions, but it's not the most efficient way, and it can be pretty painful sometimes. So there is a better way. So I want to just show you some resources. You know, most of these are free and accessible to you right now. Okay, so we just launched a CAD Administration landing page. So I want to show you what that looks like. So, and I'll send the links to all of this, but it's kind of like your one-stop shop go-to for everything. There's a lot of links in here, but your licensing questions, you know, we have a certification page also, but, you know, kind of step 1 through step 6 on how to set up your team for success, helpful blogs. So all of this is, you can go to that right now and get that information. Upgrade questions, and then of course our numbers for technical support, and then FAQs. Like I said, we just built this. We're going to build out the FAQ section a little bit more, but it's a good starting place. The other thing is a customer portal. So we've had the customer portal for a year now, GoEngineer customer portal. So this is a place where you can view all of your assets and manage them. Let's see if this video plays from Brian. I'm gonna click on it. Oh, I don't know if you can hear it. Oh, that'll be sad if I can't share the sound. Okay, I'm gonna press play. You guys probably can't hear it, so I'm just gonna talk over it. So Brian, this is actually one of Brian's projects, and he's gonna show you what the customer portal is. So basically it's free. You just log in and you can see your assets. You can assign users, and each of these users can have different permissions. Here he's showing the assets and the expiration date. You can make edits and comments there. You can request a quote for something through this tool. You can view your technical support tickets and see where they stand. You can view history. A lot of information at your fingertips. Part of this is just for you guys to have transparency to what's happening behind the curtain, but also just you guys having control on it. You guys being able to do the things you need to do timely, you know, instead of like emails and then having to schedule a call. A lot of these things can be done now. They're in your hands. So if you want to know more about this, I have my email address at the end of this presentation. So if you want to know more, just let me know. The other thing we have is the GoEngineer community. So the GoEngineer community is, it's kind of like a forum, really. Let's take a look at what it looks like. So it's really a SOLIDWORKS topic-based forum, data management, 3D printing, but there is a lot of content in here already. You can search, it's free to access. And then you can go into specific topics, simulation, data management, electrical. You can type in a question, search for your question, and our team is constantly working this, you know, making sure we answer timely. The CAD Administration self-paced class, of all the options I'm mentioning to you, this is probably my favorite. So the CAD Administration self-paced training class, this was homegrown by our technical support and application engineers. It was a long process to build, like, all the content for it. And I say this because a lot of the information in the course is available piecemeal all over the internet, but this is kind of like a one place you can go to get the information you need. So it's hosted on our, our Teachable site, where we have all of our self-paced courses, but you can select SOLIDWORKS CAD Administration and see all of the topics available. License agreement, installation, downloads, toolbox, templates, formats, so much. And what I like about this is you don't have to look at everything. You can just pick out the ones you need when you need to. But if you go through the whole course altogether, you get 30 days to complete it. And you're kind of all set to go. Like, when the issue comes up, you'll at least have a clue of, like, oh yeah, I learned this in class. This is what I need to be doing. And then, like, the fifth thing is just if your organization or you can't be burdened with these extra activities, we do offer a service. It's called Managed Admin Services. So these are the deliverables that come with Managed Admin Services. It's not limited to this list, but this is something that organizations are coming to us asking us for this. So we have a whole team that does this. So you get kind of like your account manager that helps you with these things and keeps it maintained. So if it's something you just want to take off your plate completely, GoEngineer will be happy to do that. So that's a service we provide. And then we're wrapping up here. One final thing I wanted to share with you guys is we've got a special promotion just for you guys. We just put this in this morning. So this is a 30% off discount code for the CAD Administration self-paced course. It's not even expensive to begin with, so this is a really, really good deal. And that's the code. You can see the URL. Let me paste some of this stuff in the chat. I know you can't reply to the chat, but I'm hoping you can see what I just pasted in the chat. It was pretty much links to the 5 things I just talked about. Okay, someone's got a question. System optimization, how to set memory settings for a large assembly. I might take that offline because I want some more specifics on what you mean. There are different performance settings related to large assembly beyond just the large assembly window that they have. Well, you have the presentation for us to review. Yes, I can for sure send it. There's nothing proprietary here. I'm happy to send it to you, especially if you want to talk with others in your group. And yes, we are recording this, so we can send it to you. Right now we have about 32 people in this session. Someone was asking how many. What else? Are the managed admin services charged per hour? I don't think it's by hour. I want to say it's like a yearly rate, but I can find out for you. Do you recommend having more than one admin? So that's a really good question. Someone is asking if you recommend having more than one admin. I feel like it's good to have like one lead CAD admin and probably like a co-pilot maybe to that admin, really for instances where this person's on PTO or just out of the office, because you don't want to be, relying on all those permissions and things on that one person. And you want that person when they're on PTO to enjoy PTO and not be worried that they're holding something up at the office. So It depends on the size of your organization, but I think like one lead CAD administrator, and then typically I see someone else working kind of alongside them, but maybe doesn't do as much of the responsibility with them. And then what else? Okay, and then they can't unmute. Any other questions? Go ahead and drop them in the chat. I'm going to advance this slide just to show you my email address, my background, but I'm happy to chat with any of you guys offline. And we would love to help you guys and make CAD administration a little more fluid for you guys. But I highly recommend that CAD admin course and some of those free offerings. The managed admin services, of course, has been super popular this year. All right, I'm going to stay on the line, but we are done with today's webinar. Thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate your time.